In the heart of London is an incredible place, welcoming over 5 million visitors every year.
Hello, welcome. Enjoy your visit.
The Natural History Museum.
I love the Natural History Museum with all of my heart.
Home to over 80 million wonders of nature.
How could you not fall in love with this guy? Have you looked at his pretty face?
Old and new.
So is this the closest you've been to a rhino?
Yes.
From the gigantic beasts of prehistory
Look how big he is.
Think of it as polyfiller for a dinosaur.
to billion-year-old rocks.
Wow, we got a meteorite.
We found a fossilised shark's tooth.
Now our cameras have been invited back
It's fantastic to come up here. It's our secret place.
to meet the teams keeping it up and running.
It's the wonder on their faces, it's the excitement, because even when it's really stressful, that's what makes my job worthwhile.
I love feeling a bit like a Ghostbuster.
And making amazing discoveries
Oh, wow.
around the world,
It'll probably bite me, but all in the name of science.
helping to save our planet
Insects can tell us so much about the living planet.
and helping us all to do the same.
It's absolutely crucial that we capture this now while we still have the chance.
In this episode, Ashley makes the greatest discovery of his career.
People across the world have been kind of doing little dances and celebrating.
Erica's bug hunt doesn't go according to plan,
I have, I think, swallowed a fly.
and a rare discovery is made in a school playground.
I think I'm going to put my emerald on display.
In this iconic building, beyond its giant doors, is one of the finest natural history collections in the world. From rare space rocks to the dodo, its collection spans over 4 billion years. And one of the biggest draws are the dinosaurs.
My mum used to bring me here with my friends for my birthday. And I was just so excited the day before just to come down here. And I just walked into the big hall and saw Dippy there. And it always brings out that wow.
Cassius Morrison has always been obsessed with dinosaurs.
I think there's that essence of like childhood magic. Like they are like monsters, but they're not. They're actually real animals. As a kid, my dad actually gave me a nickname, Professor Castrosaurus. I just love dinosaurs so much.
Just over a year ago, Cassius started working as a researcher at the museum.
It's just so surreal because as a kid you were walking around there and you're like, oh, you're trying to, pressing your fingers against the glass and trying to see them and trying to get through the crowds. And here you have it all to yourself and you're just like, wow, I'm actually working here. And it's just like amazing.
Today, Cassius has come down to the museum's vaults, and he has his eye on one terrifying specimen from a dinosaur that walked the Earth 80 million years ago.
This is a lower jaw of a dinosaur named Gorgosaurus. It's a cousin of T-Rex. The Gorgosaurus can reach up to about 8 to 9 meters in length, so it's a substantially large animal, more slenderly built than T-Rex, so he would be slightly faster.
The name Gorgosaurus literally means fierce lizard, and its remains have been found in America and Canada. And like its close relative, the T-Rex, it survived by hunting and eating other creatures. Fully grown, it was almost the length of a double-decker bus.
So the most striking feature of this jawbone are the teeth, and they're actually nearly the size of a human finger. So they would have gone through bone, they would have gone through flesh.
Today, Cassius is scanning the fossilized jaw. He hopes the scan will tell him more about this prehistoric killing machine.
So from this lower jawbone, we'll be able to look into how it might bite. So there's quite a lot of information that could be gained, and when we compare it to T-Rex, and sort of understand more about senses and even hunting behaviours.
This giant dinosaur jawbone has never been CT scanned before.
I'm really excited to be able to see what is preserved. Just can't wait.
The scan takes at least 12 hours, and then it needs to be analysed, so Cassius should soon know much more about this T-Rex's relative. Kat is on her way to one of the public galleries with her trolley of treasures.
It's always a little bit fiddly with these trolleys. They've got a character. Thank you very much.
She's got an ammonite, starfish, a dinosaur's vertebra, and a rather surprising item.
This one just here. What do you think that might be? This is fossilized dinosaur poo. Trying to think of.
Is the
No, so it's the poo.
Oh.
Yeah. Hello. Hi. Have you been able to touch any fossils today? This one is my favorite one. Now this is dinosaur poo. Would you like to touch it?
Would you like to?
I promise it's safe.
It's not smelly.
I know. So yeah, it doesn't smell anymore. You don't need to wash your hands. Poop. Exactly it. So we have some dinosaur poo. Yeah. Thank you so much for having a chat. Have a lovely rest of your day. If someone thinks that science is boring, they just haven't found the right area of science to get them excited yet. It's really heavy. I think it's lovely. I would say I'm a bit of a nerd. I think you have to be to work here, to be honest. Have a lovely rest of your day. See you later. Bye-bye. Thank you for chatting.
Two years ago, a mysterious incident in Gloucestershire came to the attention of one of the museum's space experts, Ashley King. It happened in the small rural town of Winchcombe one February evening, right outside the house of Rob and Catherine Wilcock. And it was to change our understanding of how life on Earth began forever.
Hannah, our daughter, heard something shatter on the driveway. But being 10:15 at night, it was dark, so she didn't see anything. In the morning, I'm an early riser, so I drew the lounge curtains there, and I saw this pile of rocks. And I thought, oh, is that an oil spill, or could it be something different? Not quite sure.
We really didn't know what it was. We didn't think it had come down from an aircraft because it wasn't a piece of twisted metal. And so we were just a bit confused. What on earth is this thing?
By now, there were reports that a fireball had been seen in the skies above Winchcombe. So Rob took a picture of the mystery rubble and sent it to the museum.
I found some rubber gloves, put it into a clean plastic bag. The phone rang, and that was when the scientists got in touch with us.
A local meteorite expert was sent straight over.
Within an hour he arrived, and he got on the phone to the Natural History Museum straight away and said to Dr. Ashley King, "You've got to get yourself up here."
When he was sent the photos, Ashley was astonished.
I got the pictures from the Wilcock family who'd found this splat, and it was just like, wow, we've got a meteorite. It was really rare for us to find a meteorite in the UK. It's going to be a career highlight for all of us.
Ashley immediately drove to Winchcombe.
He started to examine the meteorite on a table that we put out, and they used my kitchen scales to weigh the meteorite on, so it was rather a surreal and bizarre situation.
And when a tiny piece of rock or dust from space comes through our atmosphere, we get this bright streak that we call a meteor. They can be going up to 70 kilometers per second. And they come through the atmosphere, they slow down, and the outer surface starts getting heated up by friction. And what you see is this really bright streak that we call the fireball.
When Ashley examined it, he could tell the meteorite had been on an incredible journey, travelling around 200 million miles through space before landing in Winchcombe.
We know that it came from somewhere near Jupiter. So it started off life on an asteroid on the outer edges of what we call the asteroid belt, which is between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter.
The meteorite discovery was the biggest story to hit Winchcombe in quite a while.
Meteorite may put a bit of our drive into the museum. This is an interesting one. It says, meteorite makes an exhibition of the family's scorched driveway. Well, it wasn't scorched at all because meteorites aren't hot when they land, but whoever wrote this decided that the driveway had been scorched.
It makes good headlines, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Rob and Catherine donated the meteorite to the museum, and remarkably, this small piece of rock could hold the secrets of how all life on Earth began. When visitors arrive at the Natural History Museum, the first sight to greet them is Hope the whale. This magnificent blue whale skeleton measures 25 metres from tip to tail and weighs over 4 tons. It's the largest permanent exhibit they have, but not everything in the museum is so supersized.
Today I have the small task of trying to add labels to, I don't know, 4,500 specimens. Obviously, I'm not all going to do that in a day.
Erica McAllister helps look after the museum's fabulous fly collection, all 2.5 million of them.
I've written up some data labels already. These are like 4.5 font. They're tiny.
The museum has taken up the mammoth task of putting their 80 million strong collection online so anyone can learn more about our natural world and how to protect it.
This is really meticulous because you do not want to do all of this and realise you've done a date wrong or something like that. Because these labels will hopefully outlive me by hundreds of years.
But behind all the labelling, Erica's convinced of one thing. She passionately believes flies get a bad press and wants to show the world how great they are.
One down, 4,500 to go. It's great.
Today, Erica's skipping her labelling duties and has come on a fly safari with one of her colleagues. She's meeting Penny Green at Knepp in West Sussex. It's a very special estate that is letting nature run wild.
Good to see you. So it's really nice being up here because we've got a really great view over the whole of the estate.
How big is the estate?
It's about 3,500 acres, so it's a pretty large area that's put aside for nature conservation.
Oh, it's lovely.
This scrubland is just amazing for wildlife, and you've come at a perfect time of year. Great weather for a bit of fly catching.
In the 20 years since Knepp's owner decided to let nature take over, rare and endangered species, including storks, beavers, hedgehogs, and nightingales have returned. And stopping pesticide spraying has seen many rare insects come back too. A greater variety of plants and animals means a healthier planet.
How many species of insects have you recorded here so far?
About 1,800 different species of insects being recorded.
Wow, and how many of those are flies?
Not many, Erica, and that's why we love this link with the Natural History Museum.
Who knows what we're still going to find?
Today, Erica's hoping to add to the count of flies that have been found at Knepp, and there's one in particular she's on the lookout for.
Look, if you see when I sweep, you're just going to get this plume. Can you see them all? Just coming up, sorry, spider's web. And so I'm going to go for dollies. And they're just amazing, mostly metallic green species. For example, there's some. We generally go for the males. Oh, there goes one. Whew, there's just bugs flying everywhere. And off they fly.
Oh, cycodid, hello! Excellent.
That's what Zoe collects. Well, there's a load of hoppers in this one, you can tell. There, a load of spiders. I often sit there at the end of field work with like spiders abseiling off my head. Here's a baby bug. We let that little baby go. It's very immature, like many of my friends. We will then take a GPS and we will take the latitude and longitude of the habitat. So that's really, really important. We will take the time and we will take the sampling method.
By working out where different types of flies are found around the UK, Erica can see how they are coping with our changing climate.
But also the date is important, so we can now see whether they've emerged later. Do we have adults on the wing later? And we will know again that's an impact of climate change. A warmer habitat means that we may have these flowers going for longer, which means their food source is going for longer. So all of these are really important to help us understand climate change.
In the last 50 years, almost half of all UK species have seen their numbers drop.
So having these sorts of habitats, understanding how we can create more, how we can look after them, it's really, really useful for us to, as part of our defence in this changing landscape. I have, I think, swallowed a fly, however, which is not the best way of sampling flies. If I get stuck here, you're right driving my camper van home.
No, definitely not.
Ooh.
Back at the museum, not everyone is such a big fan of insects. In fact, there's a war going on with tiny flying creatures.
My job is to preserve the natural beauty of these specimens.
Armando Mendez is the museum's resident pest controller.
The whole of the museum is a little bit of a battleground with insect pests, and this is my job. This is what I try to do. I try to keep them away and protect the specimens like I'm protecting them against a very serious threat, an enemy.
For the public, the objects on display are great to look at, but to a moth, they're a slap-up meal. Museums around the world have had collections wiped out by these pesky pests, and Armando keeps an old display to show the damage they can cause.
Take a look at this level of destruction. This is just bits and pieces of insect. All of the specimens are gone. Every single individual is completely destroyed. That's why pests are a really serious #1 enemy for this museum. But if we focus on the species themselves that are a problem for us and we try to understand them, then we can get somehow ahead of them.
Armando has a cunning plan to stay one step ahead of the moths. It's natural and environmentally friendly.
This is one of our secret weapons. This is a compound female pheromone.
Pheromones are the chemicals creatures give off when they're trying to attract a mate. By setting traps with female pheromones, Armando is hoping to lure the males in and cover them with female scent. Male moths are then attracted to other male moths because of the way they smell, so breeding rates drop. This afternoon, he's come to check one of the 1,800 traps set up throughout the museum.
This is very good news. There is only one dead moth here. And it's very good news because only 10 years ago, this would have been absolutely covered, completely stuffed with moths. And to prove it, I kept a trap from that long ago. So this is dated in 2011, March. And this was the state of our galleries back then with this particular insect. It was absolutely rampant with it. But now it feels like we're winning the war.
The day is coming to a close for many at the museum. But for some, it's the beginning of a long night.
524 are booked in. We do get no-shows occasionally, so we might get a few no-shows, but 524 have confirmed.
Tonight, they are hosting a super-sized sleepover for several hundred guests.
So we need to finish setting up the mats so that they've all got somewhere to sleep when they come in, because they don't get to pick where they sleep. We allocate their sleeping spaces, because about 300 children getting to choose where they sleep. You can imagine what carnage that would be.
It's events manager Georgina's job to control the chaos.
Yes, I'm a bit frazzled, but otherwise I'm okay.
Bonjour, salut. Good morning, guys. Welcome.
Since the museum first opened its doors in 1881, countless millions of visitors have come to marvel at its collection. But today there's one special corner dedicated to helping the public identify their finds. Everything from bugs to bones or fossils. They receive around 2,000 inquiries a year, and it's always a surprise to open the post in the morning because rock specialist Ben Dixon never knows what he might find.
Definitely an adventure going into these things sometimes. Careful. And it is the proverbial flint. It looks to me like a bit of sponge, which is a very common fossil found in flint. This is actually very well preserved, so it's actually a really nice piece. Hello.
Hello.
The first visitors today are Jenny and 7-year-old Iris. They brought a mystery stone she found in her school playground.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. I just found this kind of grey lump in the ground, and then I saw the shiny bit of it. I put it in my pocket and we just went to class. We weren't allowed to have dirty rocks in class, so I had to put it in my tray so nobody would confiscate it.
Most people your age maybe bring in little bits of glass or flint. You seem to have found a crystal.
Ben thinks Iris's crystal could be something incredibly special.
It might be emerald, but I can't think of any other crystal that it might be. Emerald deposits are in very rare areas in the world, so I mean it's pretty incredible that it's in your school.
Emeralds are usually dug up in South America or Africa, not primary schools in South London.
I'd like to look at it closer. Maybe you want to look at it under a microscope or something like that? Would that be a good idea?
To confirm that Iris's discovery really is a prized emerald, Ben needs to take a closer look.
This is our Citizen Science Center. And so if we look at it under the microscope, but it does seem layered and does seem somewhat crystalline. Now, do you want to look through it?
Yeah. What can you see?
So if you can move it with your hand.
I would say that it's very sparkly. I feel like crystallish is a word, but...
I like that word. Crystallicious. Well, Iris, thank you for bringing that in. I'm amazed by the specimens, so I think I rarely get to see an emerald, so in a way I've learned a lot.
Iris will never know how her emerald came to be in her playground, but the mystery of what it is finally solved.
It was great to be able to come in to have this experience and with your emerald.
I think I'm going to put my emerald on display at home. Maybe even show it to public.
estate management team Ben and Keith, there are certain perks that come with the job.
So it's fantastic to come up here. It's one of the only parts of the museum where you can see the whole scale of the museum. We can see the towers at the front. We can see these roofs we're replacing, and it's our secret place.
But it's not just a spot to get away from the crowds. There's work to be done. First up, checking the museum's newly installed solar panels, all helping to save the planet.
Every flat roof on the museum we're looking at as an opportunity to put solar power to run the museum.
But there's also the task of maintaining the museum's sloping roofs.
These roofs have been giving us problems for probably 20 years, but there is a point where you can patch no longer because we're sticking patches on patches. There's some lead tags there, some repairs. So what are we seeing here, Ben?
So what we see here, we've just had our first shipment of new slate come in, and we're currently now at the point where we're on our first 18-metre stretch of roof, which our contractors are working on.
And because it's the Natural History Museum, Keith has an ingenious solution on hand to a tricky problem.
When we started this project, we didn't know where the original slates came from. So we've used one of the museum scientists, and we've been able to determine within 99% certainty the quarry it came from in Cumbria. We've gone back to that quarry, and they're making new slates for the museum 140 years later. This is what the Natural History Museum looks like laid bare. Now we're wrapping it up in a big warm duvet jacket that's going to keep the museum warm and protect the people and the collections for the next 100 years.
When a meteorite crashed on the Wilcox driveway in Winchcombe, Gloucestershire, it made headlines around the world.
It did make us feel like local celebrities for a short while.
The section of their driveway is now housed at the Natural History Museum in London.
This is amazing for us to have in our collection because it helps tell the story of the Winchcombe meteorite. It was amazing that the Wilcox went, oh yeah, we don't mind if you cut out a piece of your driveway. And hopefully this will go on display at the museum and people can come and see this and learn about meteorites and why we're interested in them and see a little bit of UK history.
The arrival of the meteorite is the biggest event in space expert Ashley's career.
Make sure the surfaces are clean.
Today, he and colleague Charlotte have got the chance to examine what's become known as the Winchcombe meteorite.
Okay, so this was collected less than 12 hours after landing on the Earth's surface. And we can say it's really fresh because it's really, really dark in colour. So this is pretty much the freshest meteorite I think I've ever had the opportunity to hold. And therefore, people across the world in meteorites have been kind of doing little dances and celebrating because we kind of have, you know, other than sending a spacecraft to collect material from an asteroid, this is kind of like a natural sample return. Okay, that's now firmly in place. So we just close that chamber.
Ashley's using a high-tech microscope to look at the surface of the meteorite in incredible detail.
So we've just turned the electron beam on. You can see most of these grains that we're looking at in here are really, really fine detail that we can start seeing, and we're kind of almost picking apart the history of the solar system atom by atom. So did we find the carbonate grain, do you think?
Carbonate grain is here.
We can see an amazing little mineral that would have formed when water was on the asteroid that Winchcombe came from.
Incredibly, the microscope reveals evidence that there was water on the Winchcombe meteorite, and that could provide a clue to how life here on Earth first came about.
So that tells us we had water out there in the solar system really, really early on.
So really, really important stuff.
Now, Ashley's using a scanner to see what the meteorite is made of, hoping this little rock from outer space can solve one of the most fascinating questions of all. Where does the water on Earth come from? Ashley's analysing the meteorite's water to see if it's the same as the water we have on Earth.
So it contains about 12–13% water locked up within these minerals, and the composition of that water is actually really similar to the composition of the Earth's oceans. And so this is a really good piece of evidence that meteorites like Winchcombe and the asteroids out there near Jupiter were one of the ways we could deliver water to the early Earth.
Amazingly, this could mean our oceans were formed by meteorites dumping water as they crashed into Earth over billions of years. And without water, there is no life.
The Winchcombe meteorite has given us a hint, a really tantalising clue to the origin of the Earth's oceans and where we may have got those ingredients for life.
This potentially means that every one of the living specimens collected and housed in this magnificent building can in some way be traced back to meteorites, like the one that landed in Winchcombe. It's 7 p.m, and at last the dinosaurs have got the place to themselves. But not for long, because tonight 300 children are booked in for one of the Natural History Museum's monthly sleepovers.
We're going to have a dino sleepover party. This hall is absolutely beautiful. It would be really hard to rob this place.
As you can see, there's a lot of excitement going on behind me. It's really nice to be in this room with a big blue whale over us and a dinosaur next to us. It's quite special. I'm not sure how much sleep we're going to get tonight. We'll see how it goes.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Ooh.
I'm looking forward to the activities. I'm looking forward to anything that involves food, like the breakfast tomorrow.
How are you feeling? So the first we have, one of our scientists, Zoe, is going to do an amazing science show on terrific tentacles.
As well as terrific tentacles, there's dino drawing and a torchlit fossil forage.
I think the favourite part of the night is now. It's when they start their activities and it just kind of, it calms down a little bit. It feels a little less frantic.
So my favourite fossil so far is the mammoth. My favourite fossil is, can you name a fossil for me? Well, what about that one? That's the blue whale. The blue whale fossil.
By 11 p.m, with the children getting ready for bed, Georgina is hoping to grab a bit of downtime.
Okay, so this is my office. This is my bedroom for the night. This is where I get to sleep between 1 and 6 a.m. And then we pop this little sign on the door, just so that security know that we're sleeping in here, and when they do their patrols and checks, they don't come bursting in and shining torches in our face.
Dinosaur researcher Cassius is back at the museum after being out on a fossil hunt in North America.
To go out there, to go digging, there's that sense of you have no idea what you're going to find. And when you find the bone, it's always amazing. It's like, wow, this is a dinosaur bone.
He visited Illinois. North America is where the giant meat-eating Gorgosaurus lived 80 million years ago.
I went to see lots of amazing fossils, went on a field trip, amazing trip, met amazing people. Saw some T-Rex specimens, saw some other theropod specimens, and we opened up a fossil site as well, which was really exciting.
Now he's back, he's able to see the initial results of the CT scans he took of the Gorgosaurus jawbone before he left. He's looking for clues to help explain how this vicious meat-eater survived and flourished.
It is always a special moment looking within the dinosaur bone, because no one's done it before. So this is the jawbone coming up here. We can then look inside the teeth and go all the way through the jawbone to then the other side. So we actually can look directly within the bone without harming it in any way.
Remarkably, the scan reveals something intriguing. how the Gorgosaurus remained such a successful hunter.
If it was to lose any of its teeth, it would be unable to take down any prey. If it's unable to take down any prey or even scavenge, it would be unable to get any food and therefore it would die.
The scan shows how over time the species developed a tooth production line. New ones were constantly growing inside the creature's jaw, ready to replace its existing teeth if they were knocked out or damaged.
So here we've got some of the outer teeth, and inside we can see some of the teeth which are growing. It always amazes me to see these little teeth underneath the big teeth there to come out straight away and chomp on some dinosaurs.
Cassius's research helps explain why the Gorgosaurus and other dinosaurs remained so successful for so long, all those millions of years ago. And studying dinosaurs can also reveal why they were eventually wiped out and tell us more about how to help animals facing extinction today. The meteorite that landed in Winchcombe is now at the museum. It's been donated by Rob and Catherine Wilcock, and today Ashley's invited them along to say thank you and to see the rock that travelled almost 200 million miles to land in their driveway.
Ashley.
Hey, how you doing? Really good to see you again. Welcome back to the museum. If you follow me, let's go.
Let's go.
Wonderful, thank you.
Oh, just look at that. They do. Amazing.
Follow me then into the meteorite collection at the museum.
This is where they all
Come on
happens,
in.
is it?
Been a real community kind of event trying to recover this meteorite and then study it. And then we have our new star cabinet that arrived just recently.
The museum has splashed out on a state-of-the-art nitrogen chamber. It houses the meteorite in pristine conditions where it can't be contaminated by the Earth's atmosphere.
We were so excited and we managed to go up and convince people to give us some money so that in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, people can come back and they can analyse these things. It will still be pristine, almost exactly how it was when you picked it up on your driveway.
It didn't alter it.
Look at that. Now look, that's the Winchcombe meteorite over there. It's on its own shelf.
2022. Great, lovely. Yeah, very clear, isn't it?
And Ashley's further research into the rock has already thrown up another extraordinary development. Not only is there water in the meteorite, but amazingly, it also contains the building blocks of life itself.
We also know it contains like organic type material, so it doesn't have life, doesn't have creepy crawlies and things locking around in it, but it has things like amino acids. So those building blocks you need to start making DNA.
For Rob and Catherine, it's incredible to realise that out of all the 80 million specimens, large and small, old and new, the one they contributed helps us answer perhaps the biggest question of all: how life came to be on Earth in the first place.
We all ask questions about how the universe began. So we're very pleased that we've been a small part of that journey.
Erica is back at the museum after her fly safari to Knepp, a country estate where nature has been allowed to run wild. Now she's sorting out what she's got.
So, look, I mean, that's all dollies, but it's so beautiful. What we produce here will be a species list of some of the insects found at Knepp. Now, these will be maybe new records for Knepp, so we can start understanding how we've got different populations, so this is great.
And Erica's discovered more.
We're seeing changes in how our insects live. So previously we might have just had one generation, but because it's getting warmer, they might have one that comes out earlier because it's warmer in spring, and then one that comes out later in autumn because it's still warm then. So we can see if we get these two different populations coming out.
For Erica, having 2 generations of these flies born in the same season is an indication that our changing climate is really altering the natural world.
These will tell us about climate change as well, because we can look at where they come from, the importance of that. So there's many different ways that these dead insects can tell us so much about the living planet.
The results from over 2 years of monitoring the rewilding program at NEP have convinced Erica that there are still ways to combat the worst effects of climate change.
They found new species at NEP, so new species to the UK. So it shows you how well the rewilding is going. And it's just lovely to know that this rewilding effort is one of the many tools that can actually encourage British wildlife to flourish once more. Shows that NEP is doing something really correct, because it gives us hope that we can actually fight against the negativity that climate change will bring.
It's early morning at the Natural History Museum, and they're expecting a new delivery of dinosaurs.
Morning, Shireen.
Morning, sir.
Can you give me a hand with these?
Stuffed, cuddly ones. And it's manager Sam's job to get them on the shelves.
We've got more of the jumbos in.
Excellent.
Where do you want to put those?
Well, I think in the centre is great, because not only are you visible, but you know, we really want those little kids to be able to grab one and give it a good hug.
In fact, it never stops for the museum's 900 staff, and today the pressure's really on as the clock's ticking. It's the opening of the biggest event in the museum's calendar, the Wildlife Photographer of the Year Awards. In the gallery, the world's greatest wildlife photos are being prepared for display. 100 of the best have been chosen, and they'll soon be announced to the world. In Award HQ, event manager Sophie Lorenz is checking final details.
Come and look and tell me what you think of the sting.
The Wildlife Photographer of the Year is the largest photography competition of its type in the world. It's been running for 58 years and has around 40,000 entrants from 93 countries, and it kicks off with a grand dinner and opening party.
And Amelia, this seating plan.
It's been 3 years since they were held in person, and every tiny detail must be perfect.
It's been called the Oscars of wildlife photography. I think what's also really important for us as a museum is making sure that everything is really sustainable.
This year, to add to the pressure, the exhibition accompanying the awards has been completely redesigned.
We've been on site now for 5 weeks, and we're in the process now of hanging the artwork and the light boxes.
It's a tricky job for specialist fitter Jeff Davis.
All of the structure of the exhibition has been built in tulip wood, which is a very sustainable material for this particular exhibition. And the intention is for this to be used in different configurations for the next 5 years.
With around 300 guests soon arriving for the ceremony, Jeff's team are up against it.
Yeah, perfect.
Among the finalists this year are these remarkable shots of bees mating on a Texas ranch, polar bears foraging for food in an abandoned Russian village, and a ranger comforting a dying gorilla. Sophie has to turn this space into a banqueting hall fit for the great and the good, as well as some of the world's top photographers. But there's barely any time to do it because nothing can start till the museum shuts its doors.
We close to the public at 6 o'clock in the evening, and our event starts at 7 p.m. Everything needs to be planned to an absolute T. Everyone needs to be really well briefed. It really is an absolute task to get this transformed in time.
Everything will have to go like clockwork if they're to pull it off. In the gallery above the main hall, Mason is looking for an audience.
Okay, so I'm back on gallery. I usually like this spot because you get a lot of visitors coming through. And I think I'm going to try one of my favourite specimens, the gorilla skull. Usually visitors are drawn to the teeth of the gorilla, you can see here. Huge canines compared to human canines. They are quite terrifying. Would you like to have a look?
Yeah, what is that?
This is a gorilla. This is a gorilla skull. Yeah. Would you like to try to hold it? I can hold the end part here.
Oh. Wow. It has a big head.
Yes. We share about 98% of our DNA with gorillas. So one of our closest living relatives. But as you can see, they are quite different from us.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, would you like to have a look? It is quite cute, isn't it?
Like my boyfriend.
So sometimes when it is really quiet on gallery, I do have a tendency to become Hamlet with a skull. It's just a pastime. Sometimes I can draw people in, but again, that's just the, I think you can tell I study drama at university.
The rolling hills of Wiltshire may be a lovely spot for a country stroll, but for Sally and Neville Hollingworth, they're a prehistoric landscape just waiting to be uncovered.
Pressure on.
They're amateur fossil collectors and love to spend their weekends finding and cleaning the treasures they've dug up.
That's beautiful.
Another one there, isn't there?
Yeah.
And they're pretty good at it too. They've turned their living room into a mini natural history museum.
These fossils were around when dinosaurs were on our planet. How awesome is that?
It was during the pandemic that Sally and Neville really hit the jackpot. After getting permission to search for fossils in a local quarry, they uncovered a spectacular treasure trove of marine creatures that lived a staggering 167 million years ago.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look at that one there. God, it's beautiful.
Absolutely amazing. Another one there. Beautiful. We soon realised we had something really, really special, and it was like a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, a real eureka moment.
And it was like a beautiful bouquet of flowers that had revealed itself from this stony tomb. And I'd never seen anything like it. And that's when you said, oh, there's a guy, I'm sure he's still at the Natural History Museum. Let's send him some photos.
They hoped he'd be able to tell them more. When Dr. Tim Ewan saw the pictures, he realised that this was no ordinary discovery. He's been studying marine fossils for over 20 years and had to know more. Tim assembled a team and travelled to Wiltshire to investigate.
We're super lucky at this quarry site because it might just look like mud to everybody else, but to me this is the absolute treasure trove.
Remarkably, it turned out this corner of Wiltshire was once at the bottom of a tropical sea. As the dig progressed, Tim and his team unearthed a huge number of ancient sea lilies, urchins, and starfish.
And then we made a really special, nice, rare discovery. On top of this mound here, we found a fossilised shark's tooth. This is really rare and it's beautiful. It's a really nice find.
Tim's hoping there may be even more treasures to be unearthed.
Maybe there's some more exciting things yet to discover, maybe new species or other things that we weren't expecting to find, like dinosaurs maybe, or marine reptiles.
Tim's team, along with Sally and Neville, have so far uncovered thousands of fossils. But there's one big mystery. How did the remains of so many prehistoric sea creatures end up in this part of the Wiltshire countryside? To find out, Tim needs to get the rest of the fossils back to the museum so they can work out why they're here and what happened to kill so many animals, possibly at the same time. The museum's closed, but duty manager Hattie still has work to do.
So last job of the day, I've got to shut the museum doors.
First opened in 1881, the museum's been called a cathedral to nature, with 4 acres of flooring and over 1,400 doors.
Very old and creaky doors. Come on. Great, I love doing this. It's my favourite part of the day. I remember being 7 years old and coming through these very doors for the first time, and the fact that it's my job to stand here and close them at the end of the day is an absolute dream come true. So yeah, always happy to do this job. Another great day here at the museum.
So the doors are now shut, the general public have left for the day, so it's our time to take over the hall and get everything set up super, super quickly. It's going to be absolute chaos in here, organised chaos in here for the next hour or so while the florists come in, the caterers come in, and this amazing set build happens behind me.
It's finally here, the Wildlife Photographer of the Year Awards. An army of catering and event staff have just 60 minutes to transform the hall, and it's Sophie's job to get it done on time.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited! This looks amazing already. It looks so good. I need to get my photo taken in front of it. I can't forget.
The 30 tables are now in the hall, and catering manager Benji has to check each setting.
We're just laying up dinner at the moment, and then we've set up each table for the number of guests that are sitting on every table. It's a tight operation, getting in and getting everything set up. Yeah, perfect.
In the temporary kitchen tucked behind the stage, Chef Arnaud and his team are putting the finishing touches to the food. Tonight, it's a special vegan menu designed to be as environmentally friendly as possible, locally sourced, and with zero waste.
So it's a tartuffe with celeriac remoulade, salt-baked celeriac, and then a truffle shoot to finish it. I think the concept is very exciting. Yeah, it's very, very different. Zero waste. Yeah, it's definitely a challenge, but also very interesting.
Good evening, welcome. You check in with my colleagues just here.
It's nearly 7 o'clock, and the first guests are already arriving.
So we opened early. We're 3 minutes from opening time at the moment, and we've probably already got about 60, 70 guests in the room.
The competition winner will be a major news story, and Sophie has to make sure the results don't leak out before they're officially announced at tonight's ceremony.
We have an embargo that breaks at 11:30. If we don't hit that, the news of the winners will be announced in the press before it's announced in the room. So for us tonight, you don't really get to breathe. Up until then, it's going to be all about timings, really keeping it to precision, which is why we've got so many people here tonight, just making sure we're watching the clock.
It's 5 minutes until the guests sit down, and catering manager Joanna is feeling the heat.
I thought I just saw a chair without a seat pad then, but I didn't, so that's all good. The next challenge is to try and get 350 plates out on time to get everyone to enjoy their starters.
And just when things couldn't get any busier, the evening's host, Chris Packham, has arrived.
I'm very excited to be back here. I love the Natural History Museum with all of my heart. I've been coming here since I was a small child, fascinated by dinosaurs and everything. I've had a long association with this particular competition. I think photography is a great way of, forgive the pun, but focusing people's interests on the natural world. But during you know, the last 40 years, this competition has transformed. There's a much stronger message. There's a photojournalist element here. So we don't just see beautiful pictures now. We see important images, images which are conveying the way that we feel about the plight of some of the creatures. And they're not always an easy look. These images should get us to sit up and take note, or to marvel and want to protect the natural world.
Among the guests is Richard Sabin, the museum's whale expert, and there's one picture that really hit home for him.
One of the people that I'm really looking forward to meeting this evening is Richard Robinson, who's taken the most amazing photograph of a southern right whale, and I want to talk to him about that and have that insight through his eyes about that experience, because for me it would be one of the things that I would dream of doing.
Good evening. The Wildlife Photographer of the Year Awards are about to begin. Please make your way up the stairs and into Hinton Hall to take your seats for dinner.
They're moving. They're slowly moving. They're like shimmying their way down. And then I've got to try and work out how I can run around and beat them. I need to wear like racing shoes. Ooh. The museum is such a babe.
The Natural History Museum is in one of the busiest areas of London, and in its grounds is a hidden treasure. A 5-acre garden not many people know about, and it's keeping project manager Louise Simmons busy.
This garden has been around for over 25 years now, and it's an established wildlife garden with lots of really important habitats. There is a lot of pond life in here. There's dragonfly larvae, there's lots of newts and water beetles and frogs and toads.
There's even a resident family of foxes. This lush green corner of London has had a very unusual past. Initially, it was a delightful Victorian promenade. In the early 20th century, they buried whale carcasses here. Once they had rotted down, the skeletons were added to the collection. And it did sterling work as a dig for victory allotment in World War II. Now, it's starting its biggest and most ambitious transformation yet.
The Urban Nature Project is making over the museum grounds, so we've got about 5 acres, and we are making over the East Garden and the West Garden, which is where we are at the moment.
It's going to take around 18 months to complete the makeover. And first, head gardener Tom McCarter has some slippery customers to deal with.
I'm trying to find as many frogs, toads, newts that we can so we can move to safety.
They're draining the existing pond and creating temporary ones. That means that moving all the frogs, toads and newts to safety is critical.
Common toads have declined about 70% since the 70s, I think. So they're really amazing creatures, and people, have grown up with them and love them. We want to, conserve them as much as we can.
Big and meaty, it's a toad. That's kind
exactly,
of what I go on. Oh, look.
Shall we go
can I
release
pick him up?
these
Am I allowed
into
to
the...
pick him up? Or should I not touch him?
Well, why don't we do it over
Yeah.
and then you can actually let them go. The frogs and toads and newts are probably fine just actually being released into the ivy. We have a really, really healthy population of them here, and we want to, conserve them as much as we can. So let's put the frogs over there.
Okay.
Watch out, the frogs really hot.
They are really slimy as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're a lot slimier than the toads. Great to be able to reintroduce them to their temporary home while work's happening. So looking forward to them overwintering and then being able to introduce them back to the new pond.
The new pond will be much bigger, and there will also be a stunning walkway for visitors to explore. But it's a delicate business, so to protect the pond life, John Tweddle and his team are keeping close tabs.
There are thousands of species that are flying around, crawling beneath the soil, swimming beneath the water. So we're using the DNA approach here to try and extract DNA from everything in an area. That will give us a much deeper picture of all of the different groups of wildlife that are there.
John and his team have been able to identify some of the pond's tiny residents, including dragonflies, water beetles, and pond snails.
It's a bit like CSI for animals and plants, really.
It's going to be amazing for us, for people to know that we have this, and for people to be using it and learning from it and learning what they can do in their urban environments and their gardens at home. It's incredibly exciting.
With 80% of us living in urban spaces, it's a way for visitors to appreciate nature firsthand and to see how it can flourish in our cities.
I think they're gonna take one.
Oh, let's see.
Oh, go on, both. Go on, take both. Yes.
See, this is what our hard work's about.
I know. And the great thing about this for us is actually all of the purchases go back to support all the amazing work the museum does. It supports all of the collection, so that makes us feel super proud.
And it's amazing to see the kids engaged.
Yeah.
Tim and his team have begun the mammoth task of examining the thousands of starfish and sea lily fossils dug up in a Wiltshire quarry. They want to find out how they got there and what wiped them out suddenly 167 million years ago.
We're still just really scratching the surface and starting to find out some of the details and mysteries that are hidden within these creatures. So it's a really exciting time.
To look deeper, Tim is going to scan the finds. He wants to see if there are clues to what happened, hidden deep within the fossils.
This is one of the thousands we've collected. I'm just going to pop it in this little box and encase it in some foam to stop it moving around. And then I'm going to hand it over to Brett here, who's going to mount it up and put it into this CT scanner.
The camera needs to take up to 5,000 pictures of each fossil so that it can be captured in minute detail at super high resolution. After 6 hours, the results from the CT scan are in. They paint a shocking picture of life and death 167 million years ago.
So that's really exciting. None of these animals have their arms or limbs in a position that they would be in life. So this tells us that it's like a sort of death pose, and a bit like in Pompeii, where someone's been trying to sort of protect themselves as this sort of ash cloud descended on them. These poor sea lilies have tried to protect themselves from being buried. And what they do when they get buried is they clap their arms shut to try and stop mud getting into the mouth.
The evidence from the CT scan shows that they died all at the same time, and from the way the creatures held out their arms to protect themselves, it also suggests a cause of death. They were most likely killed by an underwater mudslide, which would have engulfed the entire colony in an instant. There was no time to escape. And they've discovered something else amongst the fossils, an entirely new species, a new type of prehistoric starfish.
This has got an arrangement of plate shapes unlike any other starfish from the Jurassic anywhere else in the world. And so that really excitingly tells us that this is a new species. So that's really exciting because it means we get to describe it and we get to put a name on it. You can even name it after your favourite rock band if you want to. But I think in this instance, they're probably nice to name it after the people who discovered it.
So, the new starfish will be called Hollingworthia.
We just had the luck to be there at the right place at the right time.
We'll get people in, seated.
After months of preparation, it's almost time to announce this year's award winners.
Good evening. Please take your seats. The awards are about to begin.
Now, with no further ado, let me introduce your host for this evening, the one and only Chris Packham.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. My name is Chris Packham. I work as a zoologist, a broadcaster, and now essentially an environmental campaigner. But if I'm looking for qualifications to bring me to this stage tonight to present these awards, it's that aged 5, I was led by my father through that door, and ignoring a small polite notice that said, "Please do not touch," this finger stroked the fossilized remains of an iguanodon, and life has never been the same since.
The judges have whittled down the photos from nearly 40,000 entries to just 100, split across 19 categories. In the Rising Star category, these incredible images were taken by a 26-year-old Polish entrant.
This year, the winner of our Rising Star Award is Mateusz Piersiak. Congratulations.
Once, I spent 16 hours in a small shelter in the middle of the lake just to photograph cranes. And you know what? It wasn't worth it because they didn't show up in the end. But other times it is worth it, and that's what drives me. That's my passion.
Enjoy your meal. I'll be back shortly after that to announce the rest of the categories and ultimately our grand title winners 2022. Thank you.
As the guests tuck into the main course, Sophie's watching the seconds tick away and praying the schedule doesn't slip.
We're about 12 minutes over going into dinner, so it's making sure that everything is ready to hopefully announce the winners before the embargo breaks at 11:30.
The museum has one of the largest and most important dinosaur collections in the world. And looking after the 9 million items is a highly skilled and never-ending job. In the Conservation Centre, preparator Kieran is attempting to mend a Triceratops fossil.
The bones are quite fragile, and I need to kind of piece it back together a little bit.
It's from one of the most iconic dinosaurs that ever lived.
Triceratops is a very famous plant-eating dinosaur from the late Cretaceous, living around 68 to 65 million years ago. Somewhat similar to a rhino, and about the same sort of size and weight as an African elephant. Most distinctive feature of them is the 3 big horns and the big sort of bony frill surrounding the skull. And we still actually don't really know what the frill was for. Originally, it was thought to be a sort of armor plating to protect the neck from being bitten by a Tyrannosaurus rex. But we know we've seen puncture marks on the frill from Tyrannosaurus teeth. So we do know that the Tyrannosaurus could actually bite through this quite easily. It's much more likely to be for mating, to attract a mate. Perhaps these things were quite brightly colored when they were alive and they were signaling to each other with them.
Kieran has to chip, scrape and repair incredibly carefully around the precious fossil.
I use a lot of dentist tools in my work because they're really good at scratching away hard material. All sorts of picks, scrapers, things like that.
But the trickiest part is lifting it. So colleague Lauren is here to help. One wrong move.
Yep.
And it could shatter.
How fragile do you think it is?
I think it's very fragile. There's a chance it could break along one of the historic repairs. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The old cement join's held. The rare frill is safe, and Kieran can breathe again and take a closer look.
That was quite nerve-wracking, but it's quite a relief that this 67-million-year-old fossil did not break on the way up to the workbench. Just going to try and manipulate the putty into the cracks, using more of my trusty dentist tools. Think of it as polyfiller for a dinosaur fossil. It's quite difficult to manipulate this stuff because it is quite sticky and it will stick to everything. First part's always the hardest when you do things like this, especially if you haven't done the technique in a while. There we go. That's looking a bit better. It'll still take me several hours before I'm happy with this, but once I've completed the conservation work on it, I can take it back to the store, return it to the curator, and hopefully they'll be happy with what they see.
You know, there's a significant quantity of material in here that has been collected over the past 200 years.
Whale curator Richard Sabin has managed to catch up with the photographer Richie Robinson and invited him to see a part of their whale collection that's stored behind closed doors. New Zealander Richie spent several weeks at sea trying to get the perfect shot of the endangered southern right whale.
The one that I'd like to show you is this specimen here. From Campbell Island.
Campbell Island, right.
New Zealand. You can see where the oil is still leaking from the bone.
New Zealand's whale population were hunted for their oil through much of the 19th and 20th centuries and very nearly became extinct.
The name itself has always fascinated me. Why are they called right whales? And it literally goes back to the whaling days, doesn't it? Where the whalers thought that they were the right whale to hunt because they were so easy to approach. There was no mechanism for controlling the numbers that were being taken, and of course the populations crashed.
An estimated 70,000 southern right whales lived in the southern hemisphere in the late 18th century. By the 1920s, there may have been less than 300 left.
But down in the subantarctic islands, in the Auckland Islands, there was this small population that had survived.
Right.
And the population just slowly started to come back.
The fact that they're recovering in numbers, it is a success story, but it's also a hopeful story because it suggests that the food web that they're a part of and the ecosystem that they live within is healthy and it's growing.
All the population has come back from 13 females.
It's remarkable, absolutely remarkable.
We can just leave them alone. Nature will take its course and they'll come back.
Yeah. I would love to have the experience that you had of being under the ocean with that young animal being so close to you. I'd love to get that experience.
Well, you know what? I can probably show you a little bit today on a virtual reality headset.
Richie used a special camera to capture the experience.
It's playing. Oh my goodness.
Can you see a whale?
Yeah. It is, it's just, I can't even describe how it feels. It feels like you're actually in the water with the animal. It feels like he's just a few meters away.
Yeah. Don't forget to look behind you. If you look, turn a little bit, you should see a...
Oh, wow. Who's that? Is that you?
Yeah, that's me filming it.
This is so very cool. Incredible. Just the curiosity of the animal is amazing, isn't it? I mean, it really is such an immersive experience. I almost feel like I need to hold my breath. This is an incredible thing.
How was dinner?
It's time for the headline awards, including animal portraits, photojournalism, and the grand prize winners. Richie is up for 2 prizes, including one in a new category, Oceans: The Bigger Picture.
The judges chose Richard Robinson from New Zealand.
Richie's unique shot of mating southern right whales wowed the judges.
There we go.
I knew straight away I had something really, really special, maybe something that's not really been photographed before, certainly not that close. It wasn't until I got back and looked at the computer that night that I knew that the image was sharp enough and it was going to reproduce well enough, let alone winning a section in the Wildlife Photographer of the Year. But my love of photography came from my grandfather. The last few days I've kind of been thinking, what would he actually feel about, me being in London to receive this award, It's been a really emotional journey.
The Great British Bee has been a familiar feature of summers in the UK for years. But now they face an uncertain future, as half of all British bee species have declined in the last 50 years. At the museum, Dr. Selina Brace is investigating what's going on.
Bees have been in decline generally. Many things have changed in the environment. We've had a lot of land use change. We've had the use of pesticides and chemicals. We need a healthy population of bees. Bees are critical, so it is really, really important to protect bees.
To help save the bees, Selina's using the museum's incredible bee collection, which spans 130 years and contains over 500,000 specimens.
This is actually really lovely for me to be here and see the bees out in the drawer. The labels tell us who collected the bee, what year the bee was collected, and where the bee was collected. So there's quite a lot of information on these tiny little bits of paper.
Many of the bees were donated by amateur collectors who sent them in from all over the world.
This one here is Bombus lapidarius, and this is the red-tailed bumblebee. And very pretty he is too.
To work out why things like pesticide use and climate change affect some bee species more than others, she's studying their DNA. The first step is to collect a sample.
Rather than take like the whole body or the head, we actually just remove a single bee leg because, the bee has 6 legs. So if we've only removed one of them, then you're not losing any of the characteristics of that bee.
The surgery is difficult because some of these bees are older than the museum itself.
So obviously it's quite tricky to take a bee leg. We don't just remove the bee's knees. We would take this bee leg, pop it in a test tube like this, and then I would take this to the Ancient DNA laboratory.
To ensure the microscopic samples stay pure, Selina takes extreme measures.
Rather than protecting me from anything, it's actually me protecting the bees from me and my DNA. And now I'm ready to go into the Ancient DNA lab.
The DNA will tell Selina what characteristics of a bee species have made it more or less capable to survive as the world changes.
If we know that climate change is going to continue to increase, we can use our understanding of how bees responded in the past to predict how they're going to respond again in the future.
It's a long-term project, but in the meantime, there's something we can all do to help our bees prosper.
Planting more flowers, things that bees like, making the environment a good environment for bees to flourish in and to be healthy. This is something we all need to think about.
Okay, it's our final award of the evening.
The judges have sifted through nearly 40,000 entries and whittled them down to just 15. But there can only be one winner. Which single photo tells the most original story of our natural world?
Our Wildlife Photographer of the Year 2022 means we will welcome Corinne Aigner to the stage this evening.
I would have never imagined the trajectory of my path here. This isn't something I really ever thought could happen. The Wildlife Photographer of the Year event is more than a competition. I never imagined I could be here, so I'm just gonna say it. This one's for the girls.
So the awards has just wrapped up. I think we made it with about 4 minutes to spare, so it was a really tight announcement, but we made it and we ensured that Karen got a lovely moment to talk at the very end. So overall, I think we were successful, a bit close for comfort, but we managed to beat the embargo, which is absolutely fantastic.
Finally, Sophie can relax and celebrate an incredible evening.
Cheers to another WP wider.
Shaken, not stirred. Cheers.
Well done, team. Well done.
Morning. Are you outside this morning? You right, Declan? Are you on donations firstly? Fabulous. Hi, Edmund. You okay?
It's 10 a.m. and duty manager Hattie is checking in with the museum's front of house team.
You ready?
For?
The day. Life. Life, Harry. Are you ready for life? Good. Oh, it's quite busy. Hundreds of people coming in right now, and we've got about 10,000 more to come, so it's going to be great. Awesome. Morning, hello.
With hundreds of visitors already on site, Hattie's off on her daily inspection round.
One of my most important jobs in the morning that I need to do before it gets too busy is make sure the T-Rex is fine. Morning, you're right. Yeah, good, thank you. A few weeks ago, it stopped working. A lot of the lights went off, and it really disappointed a lot of people. They were coming in the gallery and just looking really upset. You can hear the music, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's working. You just need to move in front of it. There we go, it's fine. So it's motion censored, so if no one moves in front of it, then you think it's dead. It's got motion sensors in the nostrils, which I found out recently, which I quite like. It's a really special job. There's not many places where you have people whose job it is to make sure a dinosaur is alive.
With the visitors heading off to see the museum's incredible galleries, housing everything from bears to bugs and birds, Ice Age mammal specialist Tori Herridge is heading behind the scenes. She's working on a project that's part of the museum's efforts to help save endangered species.
So these cupboards might look ordinary, but they're not. This is the museum's fossil mammals store, and these cupboards are all arranged geographically. We just passed Pakistan, here's the Mediterranean. Very quickly, you get into the fossil mammals of Britain, because we've got lots and lots of those. And this is Ice Age London. It screams Ice Age immediately because you've got woolly mammoth on Old Kent Road, reindeer, Buckingham Palace Road. I mean, it's like a monopoly board of Ice Age London.
These fossils were all found near the River Thames, where the animals lived between 125 and 40,000 years ago, roughly when the first modern humans came to Britain.
Here we have this beauty. It looks like a dragon, it's not. This is actually a woolly rhinoceros from Battersea Power Station. They found this when they were building it in 1873. And we know they were woolly because we have carcasses from Siberia with fur, and there's Ice Age art as well, with pictures of these creatures with great shaggy coats.
The woolly rhino weighed as much as 2,800 kilos and stood about 2 meters tall, like a small elephant.
With a big hump, but they had short legs, and they had this enormous horn. This rhinoceros was a bit like the white rhino, a grazer, and we know that from the shape of its skull, and it was really low slung, hanging low to the ground. Imagine that, running through central London.
But for some reason, these creatures started to die out.
30,000 years ago, just started to wink out. From covering like the majority of the northern hemisphere, you see them winking out. The woolly rhinos disappearing one by one till 13,000 years ago. Nothing left. And you just have to ask yourself, why does this happen?
Tori has been working on finding out why species go extinct so that we can help stop it happening again.
There are still rhinos in the world, but every single population is under immense pressure from humans, from their environment being changed, from climate change itself. And by looking at what happened to these creatures, we might be able to understand not only why these things affect these animals, but what we can do about it.
Today, the rhino population is in crisis, with some species down to under 100 animals left alive. And the museum urgently wants to do what it can before it's too late and the rhino is gone forever.
Welcome everybody to the Natural History Museum.
Every day here in London, thousands of visitors file through the museum's doors to view the exhibits. With almost 30,000 objects to see, there's plenty to choose from. But incredibly, for every object on display, there are 3,000 more stored behind closed doors. So now, the museum is putting on a special exhibition of items never before seen in public. It's telling the amazing story of HMS Challenger, which made one of the greatest sea journeys of all time.
These are some of the original recording books from the Challenger.
And it's Andrea Hart's job to pull it all together. The Challenger's crew were at sea for years, sailing through some of the most violent waters on Earth.
It sailed in almost all of the world's oceans to find out what was living in them, their conditions. This was on a global level that had never been undertaken before.
In 1872, at the height of Queen Victoria's reign, the Challenger set sail from Sheerness in Kent. For the next 4 years, its crew of over 200 faced storms, icebergs, and food shortages as they sailed over 80,000 miles in the Atlantic, Antarctic, and Pacific Oceans.
What we are looking to do is to tell the story of the expedition. They had no assistance from the technology that we would have today, so very manual, very arduous. We are incredibly lucky to have letters, as well as some daily journals.
By the time the Challenger docked triumphantly back in the UK 4 years later, it wasn't only notebooks and journals that returned. Its hold was full of thousands of previously unknown marine creatures.
Some people say it smells fishy in here, but I don't notice it.
Carefully preserved in jars to this day and stored in the museum's tank room, the collection is full of the weird and wonderful from many expeditions. From the anglerfish that lives over 1,000 meters down to the giant squid that can grow over 12 meters. And it's James McLean's job to look after them. They are some of the museum's rarest and ugliest specimens.
We have a huge variety of different things. Some lovely poor beagle shark heads there.
There are 2,000 fish and larger sea creatures stored here.
We quite often call them pickled specimens because I guess they are sort of preserved in a fluid
We never ever would use vinegar. We like ethanol and water.
Some of the creatures from the Challenger expedition will go on display. So James needs to make sure that they are in top condition.
So this specimen, because of its size, is called the obese dragonfish, and they look quite ferocious. And that's the lure there, a little barbel underneath their chin, which will have a glowing lure at the end. And that's what they use to attract their prey. When this specimen was brought back, this species had never ever been seen before.
The expedition rewrote the rule book. It proved that the ocean beds were not covered in ice, and also that creatures could live almost 5 kilometers below the surface. And its sea temperature readings are still used today, as scientists check how our oceans have warmed up over the last 150 years.
The Challenger expedition was amazing. It discovered that there was this strange chain of underwater mountains that went right down the middle of the Atlantic. When they brought back the news, some people thought it was evidence that they'd discovered Atlantis.
And when they sailed through the Pacific Ocean, they made another historic discovery.
They also found out that the ocean is very, very deep. It's over 8,000 meters deep. And just 50 miles away from where they were at that site is actually the deepest known point of the ocean, and that is now called Challenger Deep.
So great was its importance that 100 years later, NASA named its space shuttle in honor of the Challenger. In the museum's backroom stores, space expert Natasha Almeida is on the hunt for something tiny brought back by the Challenger. While dredging the deep ocean, as well as strange creatures, the ship also came across some visitors from outer space. Meteorites.
What's really exciting about working with collections of meteorites is there's so much that we have learnt from them. They told us the age of the sun. They've told us that the moon used to be a part of the earth. And the exciting thing is, what is there still to be found out?
Meteorites may have expanded our understanding of the solar system, but if you think they're all huge rocks from space, just look at what the Challenger found.
So here they are. This is the first ever collection of micrometeorites. They're very small, but there are tiny little micrometeorites inside there. This is such an exciting thing to hold. It's something that most scientists, when they visit the collection, they really love to see. It's a first for the museum, it was a first for the world.
When the Challenger collected samples of silt from the bottom of the Pacific, they found micrometeorites, tiny specks of space dust the size of a grain of salt. And they're very different from the museum's other meteorite specimens.
This is a pallasite meteorite.
This meteorite landed in Argentina over 70 years ago, weighed 3/4 of a ton, and staggeringly is over 4.5 billion years old.
This one's been cut and then polished, so it looks really nice and smooth. So it's got iron metal, and then the crystals here are really beautiful specimens. Look at that.
These meteorites all have one thing in common. They've survived traveling many millions of miles of space to get here.
So this is actually a volcanic rock from Mars. It used to be part of a lava flow that would have erupted about 1.4 billion years ago. This is definitely one of the jewels in the collection.
The micrometeorites will go on display as part of the Challenger exhibition. But Natasha wants to see if she can find some herself, in the most unlikely of locations, the museum's roof. Every year, the Natural History Museum welcomes over 5 million visitors. But today, the staff are preparing for one visitor in particular, who was a regular on our TV screens. As Boris Johnson's top science advisor, Sir Patrick Vallance became a household name during the COVID pandemic.
When you make a move, you have to go earlier than you think you want to. You have to go harder than you think you want to.
But now he's got a new job as chairman of the Natural History Museum's trustees. And today he's come to have a good look around with museum director Doug Gurr. And there's one mammal Sir Patrick's especially keen to see: bats.
Bats are super interesting. How could you not fall in love with this guy? Have you looked at his pretty face? This one is close to my heart because I was involved in the description of the species. Bats are quite poorly understood. I fear that we are losing more species that are not known to science yet. And by the time that we realize, they'll be gone.
In the museum's very own bat cave are over 40,000 specimens, presided over by Roberto Portela Miguez.
Welcome to my kingdom.
Thank you. We have a collection that spans over 300 years, but we are revisiting and reassessing with modern techniques. And actually, we were able to determine that this is a different species from what it was labeled as.
Really?
So a lot of these labels obviously date from the 19th century and 18th centuries.
The museum's latest work reveals new evidence of particular interest to Sir Patrick.
Some of these bats are centuries old and have been detected to have a strain of the coronavirus that is very similar to the one that affected humans and caused the global pandemic.
So in those samples, you've actually picked up coronavirus
yes.
RNA. Okay.
Which is extraordinary.
Amazing.
Incredibly, several bat species were able to carry a type of coronavirus without getting sick. But how bat coronavirus made the jump to being the virus that caused the pandemic is still unknown. So the museum is putting its entire collection of 80 million specimens online for everyone to use. They hope that the bat samples will help scientists around the world find out more about how COVID started and how it was transmitted.
What you're now seeing here is Fedra taking detailed shots. And you can see that it's fantastic resolution.
Oh, look at that.
That's extraordinary. And you can see the beautiful nose leaf structure.
That's amazing. When you see that, you can understand why you've fallen in love with them.
Yes, and they're beautiful.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. The idea you can take a tissue sample and start to see how have bats lived with coronavirus for a very long time is an extraordinary process. The fact is that it's not the bat, it's the interaction between us and the bats and the way we interact with nature.
With the boss's visit over, there's another bat scan for Roberto to do.
The key thing about the CT scan is that it allows you to peel off all the different tissues until you get to the skull itself. And if we wanted to, we could also go into the nostrils of the bat and see all the bones within the nose, which are paper thin and very small, and now we're going to come out through the mouth. So this is being playful, but there is good science being done with all this information.
For Roberto, studying bats is his own small step in helping save planet Earth.
There is a planetary emergency, and it worries me the shape of the planet that we will leave to future generations. And so if I can make a difference by letting people know about the species that are out there, I think that's my mission, and that's what keeps me coming back every day to this place.
Hello, team leader. This is Foxtrot 5, over.
Duty manager Hattie is back on her inspection round.
Another one of my important jobs is making sure all the elevators are working so that people can get safely up to the upper floors if they have any accessibility needs. Very simple job, you just need to check that they're working. Apparently, some of the elevators here at the museum are haunted. I've heard a couple different stories. Apparently in the basement there was a morgue, apparently there was a hospital, and I have heard a story of a security guard and the elevator came down on its own accord, opened, and they saw someone kind of crawl out of it and they were covered in bandages. Yeah, don't know if I believe that one, but I want to. She's working. Lift is working, it's fine, no ghosts running out of it, all good.
Doors closing.
"6 p.m. and the end of the day for the museum. As the great doors close, you'd think it'd all go quiet. But you'd be wrong, because tonight there's no rest for the wicked. It's Halloween, and the museum is throwing a party.
We are special agents. We just got a call that there might be some alien activity happening.
My dream wasn't to be an astronaut, but here I am, fulfilling someone else's dream, and I feel like I'm doing it quite well.
The museum comes back to life with almost 1,000 paying visitors arriving in fancy dress. And it's Robbie Watts' job to make sure it's no horror show.
A lot of people have been saying, "What are you going to dress up as, Robbie?" And I'm like, that's the least of my worries right now. I've got a lot to do. But I think it's a really great way of engaging the public. We've got a lot to offer here in terms of spooky stuff. I think the building is quite gothic itself. It can be quite a creepy place.
Curator John Ablett has brought along some highlights from his cabinet of horrors.
This is the wonderfully named vampire squid from hell. When something tries to eat it, they actually shoot out glow-in-the-dark mucus, and the thought being that this slime temporarily blind anything that's looking for it, distract them, and this can slowly blob off into the distance.
But you can't have Halloween without bats. And bat expert Stephanie Holt is on hand to stick up for this misunderstood little mammal.
So this is our vampire bat. Well, there are only 3 species of vampire in the world. 1 feeds on birds and 2 that feed on mammals. It's got these very fine needle-sharp teeth. It'll make a sharp incision with those incisors and then lick the blood. So they don't suck blood, they lap at the blood. Bats are not evil at all. They will feed starving bats who haven't fed well with blood that they regurgitate, even if it's not one that's related to them at all, which is really unusual.
Andrea's exhibition on the amazing voyage of the deep-sea explorer ship, the Challenger, is now taking shape. But as well as the discoveries, she wants to know how tough life was for the crew who set sail 150 years ago.
So help me, Bob, I'm bully in the alley. Bully in the alley. Help me.
And one person who could provide a clue is Philip Pearson. He's the great-grandson of the ship's coal stoker, and he keeps the spirit of the Challenger alive, singing sea shanties.
My great-grandfather, Charlie Collins, was something of a mythical figure in our family. He joined the Navy 14 years old, and 10 years later, he signed on the Challenger. I'm fascinated by his story. Who wouldn't be if you had an ancestor who was part of a world-famous expedition?
Philip has come to the museum to meet Andrea. She wants to find out more about his great-grandfather.
Hello, welcome to the museum. Very nice to meet you.
You too.
Tell me a little bit more about your Charlie.
Well, Charlie, he ran away to sea against his father's wishes.
Philip has only ever seen one photo of his great-grandfather. He's hoping Andrea has some more.
Here we've got the captain and a few more crew ones here.
But as they search, one thing becomes clear.
There aren't many pictures of the sailors. I can't find Charlie.
No, it tended to be more the officers, didn't it?
But Andrea does have something for Philip. Original letters by the boat's steward. And they shed light on what life was like below decks for his great-grandfather.
I believe these letters are around Christmas time. Here the captain gave every one of the ship's company 1/3 of a pint of sherry, and very good wine it was.
It's extraordinary.
Despite a relatively merry Christmas, the letters detail how tough conditions were. and as the ship sailed towards Antarctica, the crew were often hungry. They hunted local wildlife, including penguins. Then, in early 1874, the Challenger captured something remarkable for the history books.
They are some of the first photographs of icebergs that were captured in the Antarctic. In Matkin's letters, they started off being something of a fascinating thing to observe, describing them as Gothic cathedrals and haystacks. But then by the end of it, he was quite happy to see the back of them.
The ship was away for over 4 years, and when it arrived back in England, its crew and what they had achieved were famous.
When Charlie died in 1932, he was the last surviving member of the Challenger crew, and there was the grand procession through town because it was such a famous expedition.
Fantastic.
Charlie left something for Philip, which he's brought along today.
These here, in my little treasure chest, are the buttons from his jacket. And they show a ship's anchor.
That's fantastic. His face.
It's been wonderful to see the original letters and to reimagine from those dry books just what it was really like to be working at sea as well as being a scientist. This is a group of sailors, and that's Charlie.
It's wonderful hearing about Philip and his great-grandfather, seeing it through the eyes of the crew members that, at the end of the day, were the working horses. They made the expedition possible.
Ancient mammal expert Tori has seen how the British woolly rhino became extinct 13,000 years ago. Now she's worried about rhinos today that also face extinction. There are fewer than 28,000 left.
Daisy?
Hi, Tori. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
In The Lost Rhino, a new exhibition at the museum, Alexandra Daisy Ginsberg explores our relationship with this beautiful, ancient and now endangered species.
I was expecting a rhino.
Well, this is a rhino. This is, well, part of a rhino. These are beating heart cells or heart muscle cells from a northern white rhino called Angalifu, who died in 2014. So what we're seeing is, you could say, his heartbeat.
Angalifu lived out his days in an American zoo. And now, tragically, there are no more male northern white rhinos left alive. So the species is heading for extinction. This image of Angalifu's beating heart is a reminder of what we have lost.
The sounds are taken from footage of the last 8 northern white rhinos. They have very specific calls and noises, and grunts and pants and squeaks.
This is an extraordinary, life-sized, digital recreation of a northern white rhino that paces endlessly around.
So is this the closest you've been to a rhino?
Yes. It's kind of menacing because of the noise, and the pacing feels quite menacing, actually. But I still want to get closer, and I kind of want to press my sort of nose up against the glass and interact with it, because I feel like it's looking at me.
I'm really happy to hear that, because that's exactly what I want people to feel. The rhino looks us in the eye at the end, just before it disappears. And there's this moment of connection, and we have to look at ourselves and think about our own behaviours. And that's really at the heart of this for me.
If rhinos vanish from the natural world, what are we going to be left with?
Okay, I've got a rhino. This is familiar. It's a rhinoceros.
I knew you were going to say that. Although it was a real rhino, it's just the skin now. But it gets us back to this question of, well, what is a rhino? This is what I think of when I think of a rhino, as this big animal that teaches me what it's like to be near a rhino, and to remember that it's not just humans in the world that are important.
Tragically, the northern white rhino can't be saved. But if we do something now, it's not too late for other members of this majestic family of creatures.
One of the things about this whole exhibition that actually brings a sense of hope to me is that I know when I'm looking in this case that I'm looking at a southern white rhino.
At around 18,000, numbers of the southern white are holding steady, and it's the only one of the 5 rhino species that is not at threat of extinction.
It has come back from the brink of extinction, and it tells us, its story, that it isn't hopeless. If you act now for species that are still with us, it is not a doomed situation, but you have to act.
Natasha is on a mission to find micrometeorites, tiny particles that have crashed to Earth from outer space. And armed with a vacuum cleaner, somewhat surprisingly, she's heading for the museum's roof.
It is sunny today.
Incredibly, over 5,000 tons of micrometeorites land on Earth a year.
Can you switch me on?
But because they are so small, and the amount of other dust that is around, they are very hard to find.
The estates team, when I asked them if I could have access, they actually didn't believe me. But the joke's going to be on them because we'll end up with 4.5 billion-year-old rocks in our collection.
The micrometeorites may have sat undisturbed for years on the museum's large flat roof, among the bird poo and grime.
Do I enjoy hoovering? No. I have a 19-month-old son. I do it quite a lot at home. But I love feeling a bit like a Ghostbuster, which was the main attraction for me. That looks like good stuff. Where I say good stuff is there's accumulation of what looks like particulate matter in which we are hoping there'll be some micrometeorites. I need someone with longer arms. Maybe this is a bit that you should do, Matthias. Matthias. Yeah, you missed a spot. Okay, how much did we get? Let's have a quick look. Okay, quite a bit. Yeah. Okay, ready? Yep.
Once she's back inside, Natasha will discover if the museum roof has been the lucky recipient of some of the tons of micrometeorites that have landed in Britain. If you think you've found gold on the beach or a precious dinosaur tooth in the garden, the museum has a crack team of experts, like Ben Dixon, who can help identify them. Ben and his colleagues sort the gems from the junk in all manner of mysterious objects.
I was always interested as a kid. I got into geology late, though. It's just sort of remarkable when you come upon something, because more than it's just a rock. Come on, folks.
Today, teacher Andy Copsey is hoping Ben can identify a fossil he found on the Essex coast.
Oh, wow. Hello. How are you doing? How are you doing?
Hello, we're a group from Cape.
And he's brought the class with him.
We found a fossil in the
A fossil?
We're trying to identify.
Well, you came to the right place.
Thank you very
so
much.
come on in.
There's a few
All of you?
Sorry. Thank you.
Come on in. Here we go. Let me hold the door for you guys. Thank you. So, where did you find it? Where is this?
So, just a bit of history. So we're down at Holland-on-Sea in Essex, and I've been pulling out all kinds of finds, but that was different. That's different to the other stuff we found there.
Andy thinks this could be some kind of ancient reptile fossil.
We can't work out whether it's some kind of snake or something like that, or crocodilian.
I assume you've seen reptile scales, and there's, if you look at them, they sort of have a certain symmetry to them. So, I mean, when they fossilize, and you can see certain patterns that are uniform.
Ben isn't exactly sure what this is. He needs to do more digging, and he knows just the person to help. Fossil expert Tim Ewan. He's used to sorting out the fossils from the fakes.
The label says spurious fossils, and that's because it's full of specimens trying to be fossils but aren't actually. They were made a collection over a couple of years, but this one here is quite a nice one. I think most people would just say it's a fossilised foot, a human foot. This was found in chalk, so this is from the Cretaceous. And some people might say it's evidence of humans and dinosaurs living together. But actually, this is just the flint nodule. And then probably my personal favourite is the calf, which is very sort of Salvador Dali-esque calf, I admit. But you can see it's got these nice horns, nice little eyes, and you know, even a little smiley face from a happy calf. But no, this is actually, again, just a piece of flint. You know, our eyes recognise the shapes and patterns as though they are actually fossils.
After a bit more detective work, Ben still isn't completely sure what the rock is. And he's wondering if it might be one for Tim's drawer. So he's come for a second opinion.
I have this curious specimen here from an inquirer came in, but I'm a little uncertain, so I want to get your opinion on it.
Okay. What data do you have on it? Where's it from?
It's from the Thames estuary, so Holland-on-Sea.
I mean, I could see someone would look at that and think, oh gosh, it's going to be like a dinosaur skin or you know, snake skin or something like that. So.
Exactly.
Close examination reveals the answer.
Yeah, it's got quite a distinctive texture to it, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I've got this specimen here, which is a nice fish fossil, and you can see it looks superficially quite similar. So, yeah, I don't think it's a fossil as such. It's just like an ironstone nodule in clay.
Well, thank you very much, Tim.
Right, so you need to wear a jacket for this one because it's a bit of a dirty job.
Natasha collected a bag of dirt and grime after vacuuming the museum's roof. Now she has to sift through it to see if she's found a micrometeorite.
This is much more enjoyable than washing the dishes. A little bit smellier. It basically just looks like mud. You can't tell if there's a micrometeorite in there or not.
She's got Matthias from the University of Kent on hand. He's studied micrometeorites for 15 years and is helping her identify these tiny particles of space dust. But it's a bit like looking for a needle in a haystack.
If you see a hole on the particles, it's probably not a micrometeorite.
Stop dashing all my hopes, Matthias.
Sorry.
The one that I've put in the middle here, it looks like a potential, so fingers crossed. Do you reckon? Could be?
No. Sorry.
It's all right. Okay, keep going.
It's not something you can do in an afternoon. You have to spend 100 hours before you can find one. So, yes, work.
Okay, it's in the middle, yes. It's on the edge of this, like, debris there. Come on, come on. Come on. Maybe?
Wait.
No way.
Actually, a cool candidate. So I could pick this one if you want.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Well done. That's great. It's one thing to say, micrometeorites fall everywhere and you can find them on your roof and that kind of thing, but it's really exciting to actually find one. They all add to our understanding of the solar system. Every single one is another little piece of the puzzle.
After months of planning, the exhibits from the Challenger have been sorted, sifted and selected. It's a moment of pride for exhibition curator Andrea.
This one here, in particular, has got a wonderful image of some deep-sea anglerfishes that were probably unknown at the time. I absolutely love being able to bring the collections out, put them on display, and also just because they are just so spectacularly beautiful, it's wonderful to be able to share that with others.
Today, there's an extra special visitor. Philip, the great-grandson of the ship stoker Charlie. And he's brought his own children, Aidan and Anya, along to see something of the incredible voyage that their great-great-grandfather made.
Your great-great-grandfather is no doubt down in the hold shoveling coal too.
Shoveling away.
Shoveling away.
Oh.
Without the steam engine, they couldn't have done the science because they needed the steam engine to get about and stand still in the busy ocean.
It's just really amazing seeing like stuff that we have like a personal family connection to in the museum. Like it's really surreal.
Thanks to the stories passed down to him as a child, Philip can appreciate the sacrifices the crew made.
It kind of brings the whole thing oddly to life, even though it was 150 years ago. It's a great exhibition.
Bonjour, salut. Good morning, guys, welcome.
It's a new day at the Natural History Museum.
There's just something so special about the buzz of energy of all these people filing through the doors.
Each day, 14,000 visitors come to see some of the greatest marvels of the natural world.
Even now, just seeing everyone immediately taking pictures and smiling at the architecture is just really special.
But only a tiny part of the museum's work is seen by the public. Even more incredible work is carried out behind the scenes, across Britain and in some of the most remote corners of the world. Dinosaur expert Susie Maidment is on the road more than most.
To be able to dig up a dinosaur bone and see something that literally nobody else has ever seen before is pretty incredible, and it is the kind of thing that, you know, I dreamed about doing when I was 7 years old.
But today, Susie's examining some extraordinary fossils that were found in the Atlas Mountains of Morocco. Although they belong to known dinosaur families, they have extraordinary punk-like features.
This specimen is one of the strangest fossils I've ever seen. When I first saw it, I immediately recognised that it had this T-shaped cross-section, and that's really characteristic of the ribs of ankylosaurs and stegosaurs. Ankylosaurs are a group of low but quite long and very massive dinosaurs. But it's really weird because it has these spikes that are projecting upwards from the top surface of the rib. We don't see that in anything else, anything living or anything extinct. This specimen is actually a humerus, the upper arm bone of a stegosaur, and it has this really broad top end, and this part here is the shoulder socket, where the bone fitted into the shoulder, and then this end here is the elbow. And these big, broad muscle attachments here show us that it would have had great big strong muscles across the front of its chest. All of the stegosaurs were plant eaters, as far as we know. So basically, this was a vegetarian with big shoulders.
Susie has made it her mission to find out more about these surprising Moroccan dinosaurs. And there's only one way to do it. She's travelling to the Atlas Mountains where the bones were first uncovered. And she's recording her trip.
We're here in Morocco. We arrived 2 days ago, and yesterday we met up with our Moroccan collaborators, and we went and had a look at some material that they'd dug up from the site we're going to for the next 3 days. And we're going to drive to our field site now.
The dinosaur bones were discovered on a remote hillside farm. Some of the rocks here date back to the same time as the bones back at the museum. So it's the perfect place to hunt for more.
And we've already started to find lots and lots of bone straight away. So we have bone all over here. There's a chunk. There's another bit there. It's this sort of purpley white colour. Here's some in here. Oh, they're big.
Crazy.
Yeah. Looks like a limb bone of probably a sauropod, just because it's really big.
And further into the site, there's something even more remarkable.
Oh, wow.
The fossilized footprints from a group of meat-eating dinosaurs with bird-like feet.
They're very clear depressions that are being picked out in the sun.
The footprints in the rock reveal so much more about these incredible dinosaurs.
What they appeared to be showing us was that all of these dinosaurs were moving in one direction on a surface that looks like it was just under a little bit of water, maybe the side of a lake. And our dinosaurs are all moving in one direction, almost like a flock of birds.
Incredibly, this could be the earliest fossil evidence of bird-like behavior found anywhere in the world. This is an amazing discovery by Susie and her team.
It's possible, although I don't know that we can tell, that some of these little footprints that we're seeing are actually the footprints of some of the earliest birds in the fossil record.
Susie hopes on her return to London that the team's latest finds will shed even more light on Africa's incredible dinosaurs. Matt has been crazy about bugs since he visited the museum as a child. And it's his job to share his passion and knowledge with the visitors.
So I've got some cool specimens with me. I'm looking for someone that I could talk to them about. I think they're beautiful. Lots of people disagree with that. But hopefully someone likes bugs. That's what I want to know. That's what I want to find, someone that likes bugs. We have one of the scariest things over here, in my eyes at least, a giant scorpion. I thought it was real when I first came here as a child, and it's a perfect exhibit on how weird and wonderful creepy crawlies can be.
It's not easy choosing a personal favourite from 34 million insects, spiders and the like, but Matt has managed to pick one.
So this is a spiny stick insect.
Spanish.
And the cooler the critter, the weirder it seems are its habits.
So they'll often eat their own skin to get it back into their system. Lots of animals do it. My pet gecko does it.
Yeah. Thank you for the information.
That's my pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Matt.
Also loving the exciting world of insects is Erica. She is digitising the museum's fly collection, so anyone around the world can tap into it and help find ways to protect our wildlife.
These are bat flies. Just look at them.
But first, she must pin the flies to their correct tiny label under her microscope.
Nothing like the smell of slightly stale ethanol to start you off right in the morning. I often sit there when I travel in by the bus, clink, clink with my specimens, smelling of alcohol, thinking, I wonder what people really think is going on with me. So we get out this crazy specimen and I'm going to mount them so I can have a proper look at some of their morphology. So we put a tiny bit of glue on that.
There are over 500 species of bat flies, all from just 2 bat fly families.
All bats have 1 or 2 on them, and they have lice, and they have fleas, and they have bugs. It's like a crazy ecosystem going on in a bat. But they're quite extraordinary in the fact that the females give birth to live young. So again, we think of this as a prerogative of mammals, but these flies, the egg will hatch inside her, and then she provides milk for her larvae. How cool is that on the side of a bat? So let's have a little look now. This is pinned. Its wings are up, its head's up. Off to have its photo taken.
Bat fly bodies are less than 1 centimetre long, so Erica needs a special camera setup to capture detailed macro shots of her subjects.
The world's squeakiest chair, I'm afraid.
Flies and all things tiny have been a passion for Erica since childhood.
When I was 10, I think that's when I got given a microscope. And as all good kids do, I used to pick the fleas off the cats. I used to freak myself out because obviously I didn't kill the fleas. And so every time they jumped up, there was like little screams from my bedroom. So what I'm doing is I'm just opening up the software, turning the camera on, the lens. I love this bit because this is a world that no one really gets to see. Ta-da! This is your first. Whee. Look at it. Look at that fantastic image. And then, that's it. I love this bit. Just look at the claws. Whee, lovely claw. And there you go. Legs akimbo.
And that's Neotrichobius, the parasitic hitchhiking batfly from Dominica. The newest part of the Natural History Museum is its state-of-the-art research labs. For Lauren Cook, working here is a childhood dream come true.
I used to come to the museum and look around all of the collections downstairs, which was always one of my favourite things to do growing up in London.
Lauren's mission is to track down creatures that have invaded the UK and are bad news for our local wildlife, like the Asian hornet and the signal crayfish.
They're really, really damaging for the native ecosystems. They cost a couple of £1 billion per year to mitigate all of their damage, and that's not taking into account the other species that they might affect by bringing in diseases that we're not aware of.
Joining the battle against invasive species, Lauren has teamed up with colleague Paul Clark.
Hi, Paul.
Who's been studying crab invaders crawling their way through London.
I have been sent some photographs of a crab that is considered to be invasive in the Thames, and I think it could be this one, the one on the bench over there. If you could pass it to me. And this crab is really unusual and interesting. For a start, look at these mittens. Can you see? You can touch the mittens. I'll allow you to. How would you describe that?
Yeah, it's furry.
Yes, it's furry. So these crabs are unusual. They're easy to identify because of the fur. And this crab can get really large. And you could see this could have a real problem in the Thames.
The crabs, known as Chinese mitten crabs, first arrived here in the water tanks of foreign ships almost a century ago. Since then, they have been destroying our native wildlife along the Thames. Worryingly, they have no natural predators in the UK to keep their numbers down.
Since then, the population has exploded, and it's considered to be one of the worst 100 invasive species in the world.
So Paul and Lauren want to find out exactly how far this damaging furry clawed crab has spread. Below the museum's great walls is a tranquil haven in the heart of the city that few people know about. The museum's garden is home to thousands of plants and animals and is a prime spot for the rare lesser spotted species, the wildlife photographer.
I'm putting up some camera traps to see what wildlife I can find.
Theo's day job is part of the museum's big push to teach people across the country about city wildlife and how to protect it.
So we're going to place one camera here for birds.
He's had some amazing results here in the past, especially with robins.
And then we're going to put another camera trap just over there in the lodge, next to the lodge, and hopefully catch a pathway where the foxes walk along. And what's incredible is that there's over 3,000 different species of animal and plant and fungi living here in the Natural History Museum Wildlife Garden. When you do provide habitats for animals to live in, they'll thrive. So this area, nice and quiet, you've got the public on that side, and you can also see how there's little runways coming down by the side of the fence. Great area, and wait a minute. If you could smell right now, you can actually smell a bit of a sweetness in the air, and that is the fox musk. And walking anywhere around London, because there's so many foxes, you can quite often smell that sweet, foxy musk smell. So they've definitely been coming through here. So now we need to try and find some signs of perhaps an area where there's tracks, where they've walked, and then that'll be a fantastic place to put the camera trap. Yeah, here you go. So, because of this fence line here, in order for them to make their way through here, there's actually lots of barriers, and the only place that they could come through is underneath here. And you can see how the dirt is kind of smooth there and not there. And so that's a good suggestion that something, quite likely foxes, have been walking down through here. Actually, if you look even closer here, you've got kind of two little claw marks, which quite possibly could be part of the pad of a fox having gone through there. So this is the camera trap. You've got the camera there, the sensor there, so anything that crosses it. And then, last but not least, make sure you turn it on.
If you asked most visitors, the stars of the museum are the dinosaurs, with 150 species, some as much as 200 million years old. And behind the scenes, there are the remains of one that is so rare it doesn't even have a name. Dinosaur expert Emily Brown is trying to solve the mystery of this hidden treasure.
This fossil is from a dinosaur found during the late 80s, and we keep it here in these 3 drawers. And because it doesn't have a name yet, it has a no entry sign, so it's very much top secret at the museum here.
Identifying this dinosaur is a difficult job, and Emily starts by gathering as much information as she can from the fossil.
So we think that this dinosaur, from the skeleton that we have, was probably between 4 and 5 meters long.
It was a huge animal, but what is even more incredible is where the dinosaur remains were found, one of the hardest to reach places on Earth.
So holding anything that is 70 million years old is amazing, but it's definitely extra special that this was found in Antarctica.
In 1989, polar scientist Dame Jane Francis was part of the team from the British Antarctic Survey that made this incredible discovery.
This is the spot where Jerry actually found the dinosaur.
It was one of the first dinosaurs ever found in this icy wasteland.
This picture shows that there were thousands and thousands of these tiny little bits of bone.
34 years later, Jane hopes to discover more about this unnamed fossil. Back at the museum, Emily is attempting to solve the mystery. And today, she's putting the jawbone in the CT scanner to see if it can reveal clues to the identity of this Antarctic dinosaur.
With CT scanning, it's always exciting to be the first person to look and see what's inside. So this is a really big moment for this dinosaur, and who knows what it's going to reveal.
In the museum's garden,
into here.
Theo has been stalking.
Be really slow and patient, but they're quite bold. So you just got to move nice and slowly, not to scare them. Oh, beautiful. Stay there. Look at that. Got it. Beautiful. And even if it's cold, even if my hands are getting freezing, I'm here, and whilst I'm here, I can just zone out of the rest of the world that's going on and be present and be in the moment, looking for animals and taking pictures. I get a lot of people giving me funny looks when I'm crawling around the bushes, but then, luckily, show them my camera and my museum pass, and it doesn't look too bad.
It might be vast, but the museum is still adding to its insect collection. Today, Inez, with a team from the museum, the National Museum of Scotland, Nature Scot and the Sanger Institute, have all come to this remote Scottish mountain, Ben A. They're looking for rare and maybe even new species.
So we're on the hunt for some insects. We're walking through this ancient Caledonian pine forest, which is the largest fragment in the northwest of Scotland.
Inez is working on one of the museum's most ambitious projects, the Darwin Tree of Life. There are over 1 million plants and animal species currently at risk of extinction around the world. And the museum wants to create a genetic DNA record of everything alive here in the UK before some of them vanish forever.
So who knows, maybe things that we find this year will not be here next year, depending on changes in climate, of course, and changes in the environment. It's absolutely crucial that we capture this now while we still have the chance.
Inez's job is to gather 70,000 UK species, and so far the museum's team has found 3,000, so just 67,000 to go.
These are animals, plants, fungi, but hopefully today we'll be able to get slightly closer to that number.
And the pressure is on. They need to track them down before some become extinct.
Just some spiders.
Aphid.
Yeah, get that one.
So there's a good chance they might find some insects here that have never been seen before.
This woodland is really, really diverse. There's tons of things here. It is like we're trying to find a needle in a haystack.
But catching insects the size of a pinhead is no easy task. So each team member has brought their own favourite bit of kit.
Today, we've got loads of different sampling methods with us. So I'm carrying a sweep net, which is kind of the standard for collecting insects. So you might see people with a big beating tray, so that's usually for beetles.
There's a little leaf hopper here as well.
Yes, it's just a bug hoover, so I can have a look at them.
So this little piece of equipment is a pooter, or an aspirator, and it's a really simple device just to help us suck up the insects in a safe way.
At the end of a long day's collecting, there's now hundreds of critters from an entire mountainside, all in one room.
So identifying a species is an incredibly difficult and complex process, requires years and years of expertise. So here, the scientists are using different ways to get to the species name, and hopefully that means that we can process it for the project.
Within the hall, they've discovered something extraordinary. It's a wasp that is so unusual, it could be an entirely new species never found in Britain before. Now they need to get it safely back to the museum, where they will be able to properly begin the process of identification.
Hi there, Jane.
Hi,
Very nice
hello.
to meet you.
It's great to see you at long last. We've got loads of exciting things to talk about.
Yeah.
It's over 30 years since explorer Dame Jane gave the Antarctic dinosaur to the museum for safekeeping. Now, she's come to meet Emily to find out what type of dinosaur she helped discover all those years ago.
So I've got the fossils out for you. Do you recognise any of these?
Yeah, what's this bit here?
This would have been part of the area that held the brain while it was alive.
But it's quite small.
It is very small, yeah.
So it's
Probably
got
wasn't
really-
the cleverest thing.
Back in 1989, it wasn't possible to CT scan the dinosaur, so these results are exciting.
So what are we looking at here?
So we can see that there are actually 3 different levels of teeth, 37 teeth in just
that
that
small
one
jaw?
little bit of jaw, which is
Lord.
pretty incredible.
The scan images have thrown up another more surprising detail. The dinosaur had a very sensitive nose.
The tip of the snout is much more complex than most of the length, and we think that this is because it probably had a very sensitive tip to the end of its snout, maybe for going through leaf litter or also part of like courtship potentially.
It's just quite incredible what a few bits of fossil bone that we found lying around on the surface in Antarctica can tell us now about what lived there all that time, 70 million years ago. It's quite incredible.
Most importantly of all, has Emily been able to identify the dinosaur? Or could it even be an entirely new species?
So this is actually a new species, so new that we haven't actually named it yet.
So you mean this is the only dinosaur of its type known in the whole world?
Yes.
I think all of us who are on that expedition will be absolutely amazed at what we found. So it's a fantastic discovery.
So do you have any suggestions about what we should name it?
Oh, I don't know. Dinosaurs get called all different names. Maybe we should call it Emiliosaurus or Janosaurus.
A 34-year-old mystery has now been solved, and amazingly, a new species of dinosaur has been discovered. Meanwhile, Theo is back in the museum's garden to check his camera trap. But it seems the foxes have been camera shy today. But that isn't always the case.
So we're going to need a little bit of luck, but in the last year I've managed to capture great tits, blue tits, wrens, the whole of the fox family.
In fact, the foxes have been enjoying this garden for years. But today, there's another visitor.
There's a robin literally 1 foot behind you, maybe half a foot, and really slowly down to the left. Hey, buddy. You're being very bold, coming and saying hello.
One of the most popular places in the museum is the Mammals Hall. It houses this magnificent European bison which still lives in parts of Europe. But behind the scenes, evolution expert Tori Herridge is working on the steppe bison that went extinct at the end of the last ice age.
This is a steppe bison, a bison from, let me have a look, this is from East Wickham in Kent. 249 millimetres between the horns there. I think if you came face to face with that on the steppe, you'd be pretty overawed.
These huge creatures would have roamed around Kent.
The most improbable thing when you think of this, like, to me, that ordinary landscape of home just transforms when you suddenly think of it just teeming with animals like aurochs and bison and mammoths and lions and hyena, and it's just, the wilds of Essex.
It's thought that a changing climate probably killed off the British bison. But now there's an extraordinary plan to bring back its distant relative, the European bison, to British soil. "70 miles from the Natural History Museum is the Wilder Blean project in Kent, Tori is meeting Conservation Officer Vicky, who is overseeing a project to bring wild bison back to Britain. They want to see if bison can really improve our landscape, and the museum is helping them.
The size of that head is so wide, the muzzle.
But this male is tame and well looked after. Roaming in 50 hectares of Kent forest are 4 wild bison. The plan is to see if by doing what they do naturally, the bison can improve the woods, just like their ancient ancestors.
For hundreds of thousands of years, Britain has been a landscape where animals, and people, but where animals have changed the environment that they live in and have maintained ancient woodland groves, mosaic environments.
But just how will they do it? Wild bison are big eaters, chewing their way through tough bushes and even bark. This creates clearings, allowing more sunlight and a rich mix of plants to grow and even small animals like hedgehogs to return. And eating so much also helps in another way.
This is the first thing that I wanted to show you.
Oh, Vicky, you are really spoiling me.
I know how to treat you.
It's a poo.
They can eat up to about 45 kilos worth of vegetation, so they have to poo quite frequently. But this is fantastic because what it does is it's putting nutrients back into the ground, which is great for the soil health. And that's not even touching upon the bison being these dispersers of all the different seeds that they feed upon as well.
And since soil health reflects how well the wood is re-energizing, Piotr Kuba from the museum will be studying it for the next few years to see how it changes as the bison become more established.
How much diversity would you expect in one of those samples?
Well, in a teaspoon of soil, you can find more organisms than whole human population on Earth.
Wow.
But it's how these giant eco-engineers physically make pathways that intrigues Tori.
This path looks like it's been cleared for us.
Well, that's it. The bison will just smash through it, but it looks like a human-made path, but it isn't. This has all been done by the bison. And within such a small amount of time, they had already started to have an impact. I mean, we're talking a matter of days.
By simply creating corridors and eating, the bison are re-energizing the wildlife here.
And it's so exciting. I mean, this is the first time I've seen this, but it's not just me. The first time anyone's seen this happening in Britain for 5,000 years. Our landscape is missing something that these bison will do. And the people of Britain are missing the idea of something wild in the woods. And that's exciting.
It's the end of a long day for the staff at the Natural History Museum, but as some head home, others are off to set up one of London's great nights out.
Robbie to all staff, standby positions for doors opening.
Tonight, it's the museum's silent disco, where you can literally dance with the dinosaurs. And it's Robbie Watts's job to look after the 850 party animals descending on Hintsey Hall.
I manage the silent disco every month as part of the events team. Yeah, every last Friday of the month we do one of these. It's a real good fun one to do. You get lots of different types of people that might not necessarily come to the museum, so it's great to introduce them to it, and hopefully they come back again. Charles Darwin would be incredibly proud of this whole place. I think he would have loved it.
But tonight, it's not about the facts of life as the dinosaurs and disco divas take to the floor. Inez and her team have a monumental challenge. They've been in Scotland trying to collect some of the 70,000 different species needed for the Darwin Tree of Life project. Out of the hundreds of insects they've collected, one tiny wasp intrigues them and could possibly be a new species.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. So I've got those specimens from Scotland, but on dry ice now. So I brought them over. So that's that wasp that we were talking about on the trip.
Gavin is head of insects at the museum. Even though there are over 7,000 different wasp species in the UK, he's got the tricky task of working out if this is a brand new species.
People often confuse wasps with flies, because to be honest, wasps come in all shapes and sizes and often not black and yellow striped. You can easily tell a wasp from a fly. They've got long antennae, they've got really skinny wasp waists, they dart around really quickly, they're restless little things. And, they can often find the open window, unlike flies.
No, that's very true.
Every microscopic detail must be pored over. They can't make a mistake.
It's the first time I've seen it properly under a microscope. I can see it's got these little ridges, these little corynea at the base of the scutellum. So I think this is the new species, the newly discovered one, the one which is only known so far from this little bit of Scotland.
Wow. Exciting.
The wasp from the remote Scottish mountain is new to science.
Luckily, you can see the wing venation really nicely. It's got this lovely, slightly curved wing vein there.
All that remains for Gavin and Inez is to name and publish details for scientists everywhere to see.
Even in the UK, there's loads of new species to be discovered. Lots of discoveries about new species for the country, new species for science.
The wasp is put back in dry ice, ready for the next stage of its journey to the Sanger Institute, where its DNA will be decoded for future generations. Another important branch in the amazing Darwin Tree of Life project. Only a few miles west of the Natural History Museum in London, on the banks of the River Thames at Hammersmith Bridge, Lauren and Paul are on the hunt for an invader, an unwanted species that has come to the UK uninvited and is damaging its riverbanks, the Chinese mitten crab.
We can look under the rocks. Oh, here's some. Look, they're very small. Look at this, Lauren. Put your hand out.
Oh, wow, cool. It's so tiny.
So there was another one here, that's 4.
Just one female mitten crab can lay around 1 million eggs, and Paul fears they have taken over the Thames.
And you can see how these mitten crabs that must be in the Thames in their millions.
They're really well camouflaged.
Look, it's going to really get going, and it will probably bite me, but all in the name of science.
Does anybody eat these?
They do. In Southeast Asia, they eat them at this time of year, much bigger than this, and they cost about 85 pounds a crab. They're a delicacy, and the delicacy goes back to China many, many millennia.
Sounds delicious.
Yes, not my scene, I have to say.
Now they've found them, Lauren is going to test if the crab's DNA is in the river water. If it is, this test could be used to track down the crab nationwide.
So I'm just going to take this plastic bag, and if I fill it up with water...
Sounds good to me. I'm learning something now.
Yeah, there you go.
Mind how you fall in?
If mitten crabs have taken over the Thames, then Lauren's new water test will show tiny traces of the crab's DNA.
By filtering the water, the little particles get caught on the filter. On that filter, it will have the Chinese mitten crab's DNA, but also the DNA of everything else that lives in the Thames.
Yeah. This is amazing technology. Who would have thought you
I
were
know.
picking up DNA?
Lauren's water samples are taken back to the museum to be examined.
All of the DNA should be stored on this filter. We can see that it was in all of the samples that we took from the Thames. The DNA is in the water, and this just confirms what Paul has been saying, that there is a really established population of crabs in the Thames.
This is not good news. The crabs consume a lot of food and also burrow into river banks, which can then collapse. And they are just one of 194 invasive species considered to have a negative impact on British wildlife.
I don't think there'll be any ways to get all of the Chinese mitten crabs out, but we can take this test to other sites where they're not established yet and potentially stop their progress up the river to mitigate their impact in other places.
Another busy day ends at the Natural History Museum, but its diverse and incredible work will continue.